Good afternoon and welcome. Happy Wednesday. It's hump day, y'all. Can you believe it? We are halfway through the week. That means we are that much closer to the weekend. I'm Ericka Sallee of TruSyngery, your host for this afternoon's Women's Leadership Women's. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here with you that I can't even get my words straight. It is the Women's Leadership Forum Live. There it is, WLF Live. And I tell you, it is a good time to connect, to be in space, to just kind of come together and just reset, refocus. And so I'm excited to be here on this platform. I want to give a big shout out to the founder and visionary of the Women's Leadership Forum, Miss Colette Coakley, and providing this platform to have a conversation, to bring you information, to give you enlightenment, encouragement, to just help you to, I'm going to say it, move forward. And so here we are, another week, another opportunity to figure out just how to do that. Before we get started, let me take this opportunity to introduce myself to you. For those of you who do not know, yes, I'm Ericka Sallee, a speaker, author, transformation success coach, and as I mentioned, owner of TruSyngery. As a result of my personal coaching and professional development programs, I do help my clients to figure out the barriers that are blocking their success. And so sharing here on this platform to continue that message is exciting, and I'm looking forward to this afternoon's conversation. So you want to stay until the end of the conversation. I'm not going to take up too much of your time, but I'm hoping that you're giving yourself the opportunity to take a break, take a breather. This is your lunch hour, and so you want to get the nuggets that are going to help you to move forward. There it is again. You're going to hear me saying that a few more times before this conversation is over, because that's the message that we want you to take away from this conversation. So listen, I got to tell you, if you saw the promos that came out, the question was, are you in a fog? And so as you're listening to this afternoon's conversation, I want you to kind of put that in whatever context makes sense for you. So you might say, yeah, I've been in a fog, or I've been in a lull, or I haven't really felt like myself, or, I'm just trying to figure out why I'm not moving as much as I think I should. So whichever one of those banners makes sense for you, I want you to grab a hold of it. And I want you to just get what you need from this conversation, because I have been feeling that way myself. Ever since probably the beginning of August, I kind of felt like, you know what? I'm not really doing the things that I think I should be doing. Wasn't posting a lot on social media. Wasn't really doing anything except taking care of some family things. My daughter just graduated college. She just moved to Atlanta. And so, trying to get her in the rhythm of the newness of her life, and dealing with making sure she had everything in order. And I just did not feel like there was much of anything else that I was doing other than that. And so have you ever thought to yourself, well, you know what, I should be doing all these things. There's a whole lot that's on my plate. I need to be doing this, that, or the other. And you just sit back and you're like, not feeling like doing any of that. Does anybody out there feel the same way? If you can identify with that, I want you to post a comment and say, yes, that's me, been there. Maybe you're still there right now. Well, in this conversation, I'm going to share with you 4 things to think about in terms of, okay, I'm in this fog, I'm in this lull, not really feeling like myself, feeling like, oh, I should be doing a million other things. And you know how it is, we're always doing things, right? But I gotta tell you, there's something about being in that space of being still, or feeling like, okay. Sometimes we think there's something wrong with being in that space. But today I want to share with you reasons why that might just be the space that you need to be in. That's kind of how I felt, right? And the reality of it is, I was sharing with a friend some time ago, and she's like, you know what? I'm sitting down, I'm watching TV, and I'm just kind of sitting here and, flipping through my phone and just not moving around. And she said, I feel like there's something wrong with that. And the one thing that she said to me after that was, you know what? I'm not used to doing it. So because I'm not used to doing it, I feel like there's something wrong. Okay. So that might be you. Like, you might be saying to yourself, oh, yeah, I can identify with that. So again, I want you to comment and just let me know, because we are not in this thing by ourselves, even though sometimes we think that we're the only ones who are going through a space or feeling some kind of way. So let me share these 4 things with you. So if you are saying to yourself, yeah, I kind of been sitting back and not really doing a whole lot and just wondering if there's something else that I'm supposed to be doing, or know that I'm supposed to be doing something and I'm not touching it, not doing it. And this is whether it's in your business life, your personal life, whether you're running your own business, whether you're helping someone else to run theirs, whether your business is running your family, whatever meets your criteria in this conversation, grab it, get what you need. And I'm hoping that if you're sitting still and you're enjoying your lunch, that you're also taking some notes, because I want you to get this. So here's the first of the 4 things that I want to share with you. So first, when you're saying to yourself, okay, I'm in a place right now, the first thing to do is just to acknowledge it, right? Just acknowledge. See, sometimes we think that there's something wrong with being still or not feeling up to par, not feeling your best. But sometimes we just have to say, you know what, this is where I am. This is how I'm feeling. And I'm just going to acknowledge that this is where I am. This is the place. And know that not just to acknowledge it, but to say, you know, it's okay. It's okay for me to kind of be in this place. I will tell you this. Last week, I went to walk, and every single day last week, it was foggy, like thick fog. And I'm like, man, is it ever going to lift? But this is where I am. This is where we are. So I had to just acknowledge, number one, that that's what I was seeing around me. And in my own personal space, I had to just say, you know what? This is where I am. These are the things that are happening right now. And when you acknowledge it, what it says is that you are present to the reality that you are just in a space where you feel like, I'm not moving the way that I think I should move, or I'm not doing the things that I think I should be doing, or I'm really not feeling like talking to a whole lot of people, not feeling like doing a whole lot of posting, not going to be going to a whole lot of different places. Like, that is okay. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything wrong. It just means that there is a still place that you and I are in a given moment, and to acknowledge it and to know that it's okay is the very first step in the reset process, okay? So acknowledge is the first thing. The second one is to assess it, okay? So when you're in this place and you're like, okay, I'm not doing, I'm not going, not feeling, assess what that might be meaning for you. What is it that in the space that you are intended to learn or to get from this place of being in the fog, being still, just kind of like, okay, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to observe, as opposed to doing and going and doing and going and being here and being there and being everywhere. When you're still, you sit back and you say, okay, well, let me assess this. What's the message that I'm supposed to get? Is it that I'm supposed to be still because I need to take more time to take care of myself because I'm always on the go? Is that you? Or is the conversation in that moment of assessing, is it, maybe I'm not satisfied in this moment, whether it's professionally or personally. So the assessment might say to you, well, you know what do I need to do in order to raise my level of fulfillment, right? Is it connecting with new people? Is it researching some new ideas and trying to figure out, well, what would I be doing if I wasn't doing this? See, a lot of times when we're moving and we're constantly on the go, we don't give ourselves the opportunity to stop and to take information in the right way in a quiet place. So sometimes when we're constantly moving and that fog is lifted and we're always in different places with different people, doing different things, different agendas, a to-do list here, to-do list there, we're constantly moving, but we may not be able to hear the things that we need to hear in the moment of that stillness. So when we assess step number 2, then that gives us the opportunity to say, what am I doing here? And for me, what it said in my moment of fog and feeling like, oh gosh, I'm not really focusing a whole lot on my business. But what it said to me was the focus was at the time making sure that I had everything in order for my daughter, making sure that I sat still and enjoyed the moments that I was spending with her before she moved into this brand new area of her life. And so it wasn't meant for me to divide my attention in so many different places, because I wouldn't have been able to give myself completely to the experience that I was able to enjoy with her. So assess what that moment of stillness is telling us. There's always a message in there somewhere. So, number three, when you're in that moment of, okay, all right, here I am. I'm acknowledging the fact that I'm not doing all the things that I'm used to doing. And I'm acknowledging the fact that, you know what, maybe I need to be still. And then the second, I'm assessing what that means for me. Do I need to take care of myself better? Do I need to refocus my goals and think about some new things for myself? So in that moment, that brings us to number three. So once you acknowledge and assess, then the next thing, here it is to activate. Activate what you are hearing and what you are feeling in that moment of stillness. Well, what does that mean? It might mean to create a new level of energy, a new level of enthusiasm, a new level of motivation that says, okay, I've been still enough for a moment, and now it's time for me to figure out what I need to do next. But in order to do that, I need to regalvanize that energy. I tell you this, over the last couple weeks, I've been thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, so now what? Here I am in October. This is the last quarter of the year. And I know that this is the time when most business owners, or even you don't have to be a business owner to think about, okay, this is the last quarter. How do I want to start the next year? You know, come January 1, you know, hitting the ground running, so to speak. Lots of people are already planning that in this last quarter of the year. And I'm looking around and I'm saying to myself, okay, so what is next? What am I supposed to do? Okay, these are all the things that I'm asking myself. This is part of my own assessment space. And so I had to realize that in the moment of me asking, what am I supposed to do? I had already answered the question for myself. So part of my assessment was I had to pull out one of my journals just the other night. And I'm looking through it and I'm like, I've written down all of the things, right? So when I say, what am I supposed to do? That assessment period caused me to go back to something that I had already done and I just wasn't focused on it in the time, in the moment. And so the activating it is going back to say, oh, here it is right here. So now that I've rested, I've given myself an opportunity to stop and to not always be moving and on the go, so to speak. Um, I've given myself an opportunity to say, oh, well, here's a new level of energy. I've opened the journal. I've read what I've already written. I put it aside because there were other things that I was focusing on. And so it made it seem like I was in a fog, I was in a lull, not really knowing what I wanted to do next. But the reality of it is I had just shifted my attention. And now because I assessed, I opened it up, I looked at it, I said, oh, here it is. I'm activating the energy, the excitement that I need in order to do the things that I've written down in this journal. See, sometimes we feel like we got to start from scratch. And sometimes we do, don't get me wrong. There are some of us who do need to start from scratch. So in that assessment period, let me go back one step. Does give us an opportunity to either start to create or to figure out what we've already started and continue to work forward. So when we get to the activate stage, we're now building up that energy so that we can take all of the resting period and all of the, okay, I'm just sitting still. That's a moment to build up that energy so that we can activate that excitement and say, okay, I've been sitting here long enough. Now that I've rested, I've given my mind an opportunity to just stop and to take one thing at a time, as opposed to trying to stretch my energy, my efforts, my thoughts, and all of my time across 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different things. That slowing down period is an opportunity for us to say, okay, let me get a new level of energy so that I can move to the fourth step, which is action, right? It's action. Once I've gotten that swarm of energy and I've activated what I need in order to say, okay, I've rested, I've replenished, I've pressed the reset button, I can renew myself. Now I can move into the action phase. What is it that I now am going to do since I felt like, oh, well, I'm not doing anything? Oh, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I should be doing this, that, or the other, and all the things at the same time, right? So now I can say, all right, clearer focus. Maybe I take one or two things instead of trying to do 5 things all at one time. Or maybe I begin to pick up the phone and make phone calls to reach out to people, to make the connections that can move me forward. There it is again, hashtag moving forward, as we say here in the WLF Live space. So sometimes we've got to sit still in order to get the energy, the insight, the renewal that we need so that we can move forward to do whatever it is that we want to do. Now, whether that's going out there to start a new project, to join an organization, to start your business, to lose the weight, to make the connections with friends. Now that we're coming out of this COVID space, you might say, okay, I've rested. I've been able to think about what I want, how I want to connect, how I don't want to connect, right? The spaces that I want to be in, what I don't want to be in. And then I can get to that place where that energy just allows me to have what I need in order to move myself forward into action. You know, I got to tell you this. It's so easy for us to say, oh my gosh, I'm sitting still. And there's something wrong with that. And we always think there's something wrong with sitting still. Why? Because many of us are so used to always moving and always being on the go. We're always dipping our toe into so many different things. And I know we wear so many different hats. Some of us are wives, some of us are mothers, we're fathers, we're husbands, we're sisters, we're employers, we're employees, we're running organizations, we're doing all of these things. And sometimes we get to the point where we say, I don't want to do any of that. And let me say to you this, that there is absolutely, positively nothing wrong with giving yourself permission to stop and say, you know what? I'm going to say no to some things. I'm going to sit still and I'm going to be in this moment because this moment is trying to tell me something. And in order for me to get what the moment is trying to tell me, sometimes I got to be still enough to hear it. That's that assessment. And in that moment is when we get some aha moments, when we recognize, oh, I was doing this before and I'm going to do it a different way the next time. I was doing this before and maybe it was costing me a little extra time and effort and energy. And in that assessment period, I get to think about how to refocus so that I work smarter and not harder. And so when you come through that moment of thinking and trying to figure out what is this time trying to tell me? You know what? Sometimes your body will tell you, oh, it's time for you to sit down. It's time for you to rest. It's time for you to just be so that you can get what you need, activate, and then move into that space to say, okay, now I'm going to move forward and do what I need to do for me and for the things that will help me to meet the goals that I have either set for myself or the goals that I need to set as part of what you may have heard in that moment of assessment. Let me get my act together, right? So that I can move into action. But, you know, give yourself permission to say no. You know what? Let me repeat that. Give yourself permission to say no. And let me say this. Whether you know it or not, no is a complete sentence. And it is absolutely, positively, unequivocally okay to say no. Some people may not understand why you say no, but if that's part of what you hear in that assessment period, remember I said acknowledge, assess, activate, and then get into action, right? So in your assessment phase, you might recognize that, oh, I've been saying yes too many times. I've been saying yes to others and no to myself. And so now it may be time for you to start saying no to others so that you can say yes to yourself. And so when you begin to activate that, you get a new level of energy and say, oh, wait a minute, I'm worth it. I have to be healthy. I have to take care of me because if I don't do it, then I won't be able to do all the other things that I need to do for other people. So that's how I'm going to activate this energy to give myself what I need to move into action to take care of me. You see how that might look? So your story might be different from the example that I just gave. And that's why at the beginning, I wanted to let you know to reach out and grab what you need in the situation that makes sense for you. I know I could spend all afternoon having this conversation, but I know we don't have all afternoon. This is a short lunchtime conversation. So I don't know if anyone in this space is ready to say, you know what? This is the moment for me to press the reset button. This is the way for me to just say, oh, wait a minute, let me just stop and recognize that if you are in that moment where you've slowed down and you're feeling like you just need to give yourself a minute, that is okay. And if you're still moving, right, you're constantly moving, constantly doing the things, maybe this is the time where you say, oh, wait, it's okay for me to stop. It's okay for me to acknowledge that I need to give myself a break. So you could be on either one end of the spectrum. Either you are right there now, or you were just there recently and you're still trying to figure out, man, why didn't I have the motivation to do the things that I need to or used to doing? Know that it's okay. But you may be on the other end of the spectrum and you might be like, oh my gosh, I'm constantly moving. I got so many things to do. This might be the moment where you say, this was just for me because I need to slow down. I need to stop and say, oh, it's okay. So whether you call it the fog or whether you say, oh, I'm just not feeling myself. Oh, I don't feel like doing a whole lot. Just know that that is okay. Now, let me say this. I got to say it because I don't want to ignore this, is that sometimes we also might use that slowing down as a crutch not to move forward and say, oh, well, I'm just kind of in this lull. I'm just going, I don't feel like, so that's the other end. And I want to say that there is a fine line between giving yourself that space and using the space as a crutch, not to do the things that you know you've either been wanting to do or you're kind of procrastinating. That's probably a conversation for another day. But I want you to know this, that there's something on the inside of us that lets us know, and you can tell that it's time to move. So while you're in the space, while you're in the lull, while you're giving yourself that time to just stop and reset, don't use it as a crutch, because we can do that too. And then we sit back and say, oh my gosh, nothing's happening, nothing's moving, when it might be the time to shift, right? So there's so many different directions that we can go in with this conversation, but I want you to know this, that if you're looking to connect with some amazing women, man, oh man, oh man, you want to mark your calendars for the Women's Leadership Forum 2022. Yes, it is coming up March the 24th through the 26th. I had to make sure I got my dates right. March the 24th through the 26th. So save the date. And you want to make sure that you go to forwardwlf.org so that you can stay connected and stay abreast of all the information that will be coming out, when tickets go on sale, what the price points look like, all that kind of stuff, all the lineup and everything that's in store. It is going to be amazing. So if you're connecting with us here on WLF Live every single Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, this is a good way for you to just get a little taste of what you're going to get at the Women's Leadership Forum 2022. So listen, I hope that this conversation has just given you a little bite-sized something to chew on to take you through the rest of the week. Because I think that the middle of the week, this Hump Day Wednesday, is a good time to say, oh, how can I reset? How can I rejuvenate myself so that I can get myself in gear to, yes, move forward? I tell you, being in that slow place, being in the space where there's nothing happening and you're feeling like, what am I supposed to do? That's a good place to be, because it gives us all the opportunity to just stop and say, oh, let me think about some things. And then let me figure out how to move. See, a lot of times we're moving, and we're missing the target. So I just want you to get that part. Don't leave this conversation without saying to yourself, today is the day that I am going to reset myself. And staying connected here at WLF Live is just the way to help you do that. So as I begin to close out, here's what I want you to know. If you're saying to yourself, okay, I'm looking to create the best version of myself, I'm not sure how to do that, that's part of the lull that I've been in, trying to figure out what's next, well, you can go ahead and visit me at TruSyngery.org. If you have questions or if there's anything else that you want to know about what TruSyngery is all about, how do I use that as a vehicle perhaps to help me to move through this fog, to move through my lull, to move through this quiet space, then go ahead, visit www.trusynergy.org. You can get all the information that you need about personal and professional development programs. And here's the last thing I want to say, is that if you're also saying to yourself, well, now what's next? Then I want you to join me on October the 20th. Yes, a lunch and learn conversation because I want to focus on how do we move from awareness of everything that's going on around us and go into accountability and action. That was step number 4 that I talked about today. Action. So moving from awareness to accountability and action. If you're saying to yourself, okay, I need to figure that out. What am I supposed to do? Personally or professionally, then yes, I want you to go ahead and register for the Lunch and Learn session that is scheduled for next Wednesday, October the 20th, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Another opportunity for you to get more nuggets to figure out how you can move toward the best version of yourself. So on that note, I'm so excited to have been able to share this conversation with you this afternoon. I want you to take it, grab it, do what you need to do for it so that you can, yes, indeed, move forward. Stay connected with us here at WLF Live. Join us on next Wednesday for another great conversation with an amazing host so that you can indeed keep on moving forward. So on that note, my friends, I want to thank you so much for being with me in this short time. I look forward to seeing you all again real soon. Until I do, take care and be well.